Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very excited to be here to be moderating this panel. Firstly, I want to introduce our panelists, Adam Warne, CIO of River Island, and Dirk Hoerig, CEO of digital commerce platform commercetools. So we've got about 30 minutes today, and our objective is to talk about how technology is changing the shopping experience and give you guys a glimpse into what it will look like in the future. I'm going to start with you, Dirk. If you could just give us the audience a brief overview of how your business is helping retailers, and then one really good example of how a client is using your platform to do something really creative.
Sure. So, welcome everybody. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for the introduction, Mary. commercetools is an enterprise commerce platform provider. It means that we give brands and retailers the components to run outstanding shopping experiences across all touch points. We do this for more than 450 companies, including Burberry, Sephora, Ulta Beauty, AT&T, Lego, many, many more, including River Island, but I want Adam to talk about that a little bit later. And we haven't casted and scripted anything, maybe to say that before. So we help them to build omnichannel experiences across all touch points, helping them to scale their businesses, and on the other end, increase their efficiency. We're operating this year for our customers roughly $30 billion over our platform, which means that roughly 90% of the audience here are interacting actually with one or more of our products, at least on a monthly basis. You just don't know that commercetools is running the experience on the back end.
And so what would be a really good example of, I know I've heard that you guys are doing interesting things with restoration hardware, for example. How are they really using this platform creatively to completely transform the customer experience?
Yeah, let me maybe describe quickly what I see as the challenges that we face in digital and physical retail, because I think that's the overall topic for our panel here. When you look at let's start with the physical retail experience, and I think Adam will share some insights on how he actually has already solved many of these things. When you look at what from a shopper perspective isn't working for you, and I hope that you can identify with these examples here, is you go to a store, you find your preferred product, but then once you want to check out, you learned that it's not available in your specific size or color, but you're almost through the shopping experience and leave the store frustrated. It might be that it's hard to find the right item within the store, so navigating the store is a challenge, but most and foremost, 60% of the retail shoppers say that the queuing and checkout is a huge problem for them. When we now look at the digital experience, it's almost the same. Checkout times, checkout complexity, slow page load times, so you need to wait for things. You have complex delivery options or additional payments, and so on. So a lot of challenges that the companies face, and on the other end, there's high demands from the shoppers. And we actually try to give them, with our platform, the flexibility to overcome that, because it's not offline versus online, right? So offline isn't dead, as many said during COVID, but on the other end, online pure play is not the sole and only winner here. We are living in an omnichannel world where we're all interacting with these brands. And so to give you an example, on Ulta Beauty, we help them to relaunch all of their customer-facing applications from in-store, from the POS, from their AI-based beauty advisor that they're having, up to their overall website and apps, all on one single platform, giving them a unified customer profile. We can also talk about edge cases, like Audi would be probably a good example as a car company who came to us many, many years ago, because not only they wanted to up-level the digital experience that you had on the website or apps, they actually wanted to bring commerce functionality into the car so that you could have subscriptions, enhance the capabilities of the car, maybe on the navigation system, make a Spotify subscription for the music system, but having one underlying platform and not for all of these touch points, isolated, separated systems.
And so Adam, you're obviously running a chain that has its heritage in brick and mortar. And I know you guys are doing some really interesting things. Can you just talk about how you're bringing kind of digitalizing your stores and changing the consumer experience?
Yeah, I can certainly try. So in case you don't know, River Island are a UK-based high street retailer. I think the stats tell us that more than 95% of adults recognize the brand. So I mean, that's huge. That's a great sign. And I don't know what the 5% are doing. Maybe they're just staying at home all the time. Our slant on things is to do fashion with a twist. So we don't just want to do the fashion that's available everywhere. We want to just stylize a little bit differently or add something new to it. And we've got a really loyal customer base. But you're right, the business has been running for 75 years. It's still privately owned. And we've expanded. So even though the heritage is the physical retail estate, we still have 250 shops. But we've got a thriving digital business. We operate on marketplace and wholesale. We've got franchise in the Middle East. We've got concessions in the US. It's much more than a bricks and mortar store. But all of those different channels have been added really rapidly. It's only in the past 15 years that those channels have really come into existence on what has been a really well-established physical retail estate. But we are really proud of physical retail. You know, we've still got 250 shops, and we see it as an opportunity to deliver something that is differentiated in the market from a customer experience perspective. And you know, this word omnichannel has been around for quite some time, but there's something new that's being used as a term, and it's this unified commerce. And I think there is a difference, and I certainly see there being a difference, where omnichannel for me is where you have different channels and you try and merge them to work together through integrations or hardwiring experiences. Whereas unified commerce for me is very different. It's where you build one capability and then leverage that one capability across many different channels. So think about it like your house. You might have a couple of bathrooms and a kitchen, and you want warm water, hot water in those areas. You don't go and install 3 different boilers and have 3 different service contracts. You have one boiler, one thermostat setting, and that's what provides the hot water. And so that's how I see things, retail evolving. It's about businesses building one experience, one capability, and then leveraging that across all of their channels. So one of the things that we've done recently is built a self-serve checkout for some of our retail stores. And there was a huge disagreement inside the business about whether it was right for River Island, whether it was cheapening the brand. Is this something that supermarkets do, or kind of bigger warehouse type models like a Decathlon? And there was a huge disagreement, so I decided to be quite maverick and just ignored what everyone was saying. And I thought it was a good idea, and the retail director thought it was a good idea. So we joined forces and we just went and did this self-serve checkout. So if you now go into some of our River Island stores, you can pick up a product, drop it in a bin. I'm sure there's a better term for that. And the screen automatically recognizes all of the products and just asks you to pay, and you pay and you can walk out. That experience is faster than going to our normal till. It provides additional digital content that you don't see at the till, and it provides us with an opportunity to capture more information about who that customer is to help feed the model that we can be more personal with the customer. Now, you might just say, well, is that not just like another bit of a channel? And it is. But the thing that we've done differently is it's using all of the same technology that the website uses. It's effectively, which is commercetools under the hood. So we're now in this world where we've built one payment method and one checkout, and we're using it now across multiple channels. And what that means is actually from a cost of ownership, that reduces. But the bigger win is the experience. So we can launch a new promotion or something new on the website, and now these in-store experiences get them automatically. We can turn them on and off, but it instantly delivers that satisfaction to the customer. And there's a whole host of objections to self-serve checkout about it removing headcount and staff and what you're doing with that. For us, we just see it as for every hour we can save of someone having to stand on a till, that's an hour that that person can spend with their customer. And all of the stores that we've got self-serve checkout in, that's happening. Conversion's going up, customer satisfaction's going up. So actually what might sound like a technology play, it isn't. It's actually a customer experience play.
And just on that, so, in COVID, everyone was saying the store's dead, like that's it, it's toast. And it's obviously not dead. People still want to shop in stores. But now in your business, and in the future, what do you see the role of the store being? Like, is it somewhere where people can, within your whole kind of, let's say your analogy of the house, like what's the store playing? What part is the store playing in this? and how is technology changing that?
Well, I think the store is like an intrinsic part of the experience. So we used to talk about online and offline customers, or retail and digital. And actually, they're just customers. And customers are, apologies because we're all customers, but they're inherently lazy. They want to do the thing that's most convenient for them at that point in time. So if I don't want to go to a high street, I'll order online. If I spilt coffee down my shirt before the session, I'm going to walk into a store because that's the thing that's convenient for me at that point in time. And for us, the store is just an intrinsic part of the whole experience, but we don't want to determine what you can do in a store.
Okay.
For everything we want customers to do online, we want them to be able to do in store and it be consistent. So online, lots of retailers do product recommendations, and we say, Mary, this is the product for you. If you go into one of our River Island stores, if we recognize you as a customer on one of our touch points, I want you to be able to see the same product recommendations. I want it to feel for you like it's consistent, because I think the brands that do exceptionally well do two things. One, they deliver a consistent experience throughout all of their touch points. And two, they deliver to their promises. Not always exceeding them, but they deliver to their promises. So again, this might be a little bit provocative, but McDonald's, it's consistent. They've got hundreds of thousands of chains everywhere. I don't think it's particularly good food, but at least it's consistent. You know what you're going to get. And I think that's what I'm aiming for with the River Island experience, is how do we bring consistency across all of our channels so a customer feels like, whether it's an app or a website or a store, that's River Island and it feels like River Island.
And so, everybody is talking about GenAI this year and like how they can use it in their business. Dirk, what are the opportunities for retail with generative AI?
Yeah, I think we need to first differentiate between what is front office helping and what is back office helping, right? And front office is obviously everything that's driving a better customer experience, and there generative AI will help first and foremost, I think, on hyper-personalization. This is something similar, maybe like the omnichannel term, companies had been working on for the last 20 years. But I think when we think about personalization, a bad example that probably all of us know, let's use a coffee machine. You just bought a coffee machine online, and for the next 5-6 weeks, you got bombarded by personalization on additional coffee machines because the system hasn't figured out that you already have one, and it's not one that you will buy the next day again. And I think now, with the capabilities that are coming to the market this year, and probably then even more 2024, we will see significantly better personalization that might actually fit our needs better, right? So that's one thing where I see big improvement on a brand level. Also to what Adam mentioned, how do I differentiate my brand from others, and how do I make it stick with the customer and across all touch points, still giving a touch point specific experience, but individual to each of these channels. And there definitely generative AI will help. So maybe as an example, this sounds simple, or why hasn't this been solved? But if you think about just even the example that Adam brought, or any retailer that's operating across Europe, let's say you have 500,000 SKUs, operate in 15 countries, personalizing that by segmentations across all of these countries, on prices, on promotions, it's actually quite hard in real life. It might mean many, many spreadsheets and so on, and there actually generative AI can cut the effort down to seconds. That will help. On the back office side, it's all about efficiency and quality. So better product catalog quality, better imagery, more content, better customer care, better customer service, maybe even better operating hours, right? So it's not that the call center is open anymore until 8 p.m., but seamlessly 24/7. So those kind of things end to end, we will see improvements over there, and that's also where we are putting most of our effort in.
And what are the risks?
Well, I don't think we will, as this is a retail panel, talk about Terminator coming to life here. And also maybe to explain for everybody here, and maybe there are even smarter AI specialists in the room than I am, but the generative AI isn't smart. What it does, at least as for now, it's predicting what letter or what pixel on an image statistically should come next. but it doesn't understand the text or the image. It still follows statistical kind of patterns. Therefore, I don't see much of a risk on is AI taking over the jobs, is AI taking over the world, at least on the current state where we are now. From a job factor here, how I see it is that the question is more what companies and retailers are working with AI versus those that don't. And there we will see significant advantages on efficiency, on speed, on scale, on adjusting to customer behavior quicker versus doing it still the old-fashioned kind of way that will run into its limits. And I think there is more the challenge in here on a shift than the AI will have by itself, because it still needs some kind of human direction, guiding and fulfilling a business principle. It isn't self-aware.
Yeah. And Adam, just on that, so everyone's talking about GenAI now. A couple of years ago in retail, all people could talk about was AR and how it was going to be used, the metaverse. And that seems to have slipped away somewhat because of GenAI. How do you see that fitting in the future, and what kind of impact is that going to have with retail?
I think it's one of the reasons why I love working in retail and love working in tech for retail, because retailers tend to place themselves in the future. We talk about things like it's present. So, the metaverse is going to be the next big thing, or AI is going to revolutionize. And Gartner do effectively a hype cycle that tries to plot these things, and it tries to bring a little bit more reality to what's actually going to happen. And lots of things go through this huge spike where everyone gets excited, and then it seems to disappear for a few years. And things just take time to move along that axis of productivity when things actually have a purpose. And I think the scary thing with all of tech is how rapidly it develops. So since the late 60s, when a guy called Gordon Moore predicted that tech was effectively going to double in capability every 18 months, that's Moore's law, and it still kind of exists. There's certain areas of tech that don't move that fast, but generally it's moving quickly still. That's exponential growth. So if you think about tech now, and Dirk's right, it's not perfect. AI is not perfect, and it's not solving all of these problems yet. But if that capability doubles in 18 months, then doubles again in another 18 months, and doubles again 18 months after that, that could be interesting. That could be really interesting. But with AI, I agree, it's a great tool. It's filling some gaps. But ultimately, you're still using humans to check the work. And I think that's really where AI sits today, certainly for us as a business. It's for the 80% of things that it's just quite monotonous, we just need something to do it. AI is great at that and can save people time and get those people investing their time in the truly human creative side of things. The metaverse and AR, so I need to be careful because I realize that I'm the dinosaur these days. I think it's important that everybody, retailers and every industry, keeps an eye on these things, and we do hackathons. And I feel like I've got an amazing team at River Island. And when Facebook became Meta and it all exploded about the metaverse, we ran a hackathon. And out of all of my really talented colleagues, they came up with some really cool ideas. But the best idea that came out was from my son, who was 12 at the time. And this is a kid that doesn't feel awkward about sitting in a room with a huge headset on. He'd sit there, we're having a conversation, and he's there waving his arms around, trying to climb, being a gorilla and things. To him, that's perfectly normal. Whereas I think the thing that stops some of these technologies and enhancements landing is just the social awkwardness of it. Like Google Glasses, nobody liked it. Is it always on? It just didn't quite land. But Gen Alpha become 18-year-olds, major consumers in less than 5 years' time. And these are kids that have grown up with AR and VR around them all the time. These are the kids, there's a fantastic video where there's a young girl who's about 2, and she's using an iPad and she's swiping it. And then her parents put a magazine in front of her, and she's trying to swipe the magazine, and she's not understanding why it's not working. What's going on here? And so these are truly digital natives who are actually, they're shoppers today, but they're going to be mainstream shoppers in 5 years' time. So I think within the next 5 or 10 years, you have to be thinking about where metaverse is going to go and what AR is going to do. And that's why thinking about things in a channel agnostic way, I think, is really positive. Thinking about building a browsing capability You might want to use that in VR in 5, 10 years' time. But I think the thing that's really going to set it apart is not trying to fit today's shopping experiences into a different medium. Like, I don't like walking around a supermarket. I do all my supermarket shopping online. So why would I want a VR headset and walk around a virtual supermarket? That would be hell. I'm not even like having a chance to interact with people in said supermarket. So I think when we think about these technologies, it can't and it shouldn't ever be about recreating what we've already got just in a different medium. I think we have to think about how we would leverage that in a completely different way that is going to be really hard to think about. Certainly for people who have spent 25 years in tech doing things in a certain direction.
Dirk, so how are your clients at the moment using AR?
So personally, I'm a big believer that AR over time will have significant impact on all of our lives, including the retail world. And you just mentioned Google Glasses. When we went live with our technology in 2013, the first demo that we did on a stage like that was actually with a Google Glass, buying the product that the glass would identify as a product and having that kind of use case. But what happened is the device never took off, so AR hasn't adopted. And at the moment, when we look at the big devices that are soon announced or already had been announced to launch, I'm skeptical if this will already make a difference. When we look back the last 30 years, always when we had a significant pivoting event that changed all of our behavior, it often had been driven by a hardware device that was so great that we all wanted to have it. Might it be a personal computer that finally got cheaper, easy to use, and that moved into every household. Then in 2007, with the launch of the iPhone, suddenly mobile internet kicked off. And even 10 years before, we have seen mobile internet devices. Nokia had some, there had been the Palm Pilots and others, but though they had been growing, they never really got significant market adoption. I think the question is now is only when will there be an AR device out that does not look like a technical thing that you don't need to wear. That's maybe like I don't want to be branding, like a great sunglass or just some contact lenses, but basically not being identified that, okay, that's a tech geek or nerd and now wearing that specific kind of thing, because it needs to be accepted and adopted by everybody and not only a small and tech-focused kind of group. But I think this will come over time and have huge impact, therefore, also on retail. We see this, on the one end, technically, it's maybe just another channel that you need to serve. From an overall shopping experience, it will have significant impact on everything. And I believe that what we now see as well, at the moment, it's a hyper trend, but from my perspective, it's going to last. So what we see on generative AI, when this actually becomes smarter, maybe paired with predictive AI and trying to get a better understanding of what is actually saying and telling, and the combination of augmented reality, that will have a huge difference. And I don't know, now we get a little bit nerdy here. Who of you have watched the Marvel movies and the Iron Man movies specifically, but there was always a technology there which they called Jarvis, which was basically the super smart assistant in the back that could see and know and has access to everything, and that was helping in the best interest of the human to achieve whatever the next task is. And I think this could be maybe a long-term outlook into the future, but one that, from my perspective, is likely to come.
That's fascinating. And then so now I want to kind of, we've only got time for one more question, but to kind of finish by getting a picture from you both of how you think the shopping experience will be in the future. So starting off from like browsing an item to then trying it on or testing an item, actually purchasing it, and then lastly getting it home. So Adam, why don't you kick us off with like your most creative vision of how it will be in 10 years?
I don't feel like I'm that creative of an individual. Do you know what? I think one of the big problems that we've still yet to solve is true hyper-personalization that is about you. And people raved for years about Amazon and, people who bought this like this, and you might want this. I think the future of retail, and this is probably really far thinking, is where you don't browse. You don't choose what you want. Your profile is so well understood and known, you just get something through the post, and it just turns up. And if you don't want it, you can send it back for free. But the businesses are so in tune with you and your needs and what you want and when you want it, it just happens. And I actually think if we think about consumers, the one thing that's stayed the same throughout all of retail is that it's become about convenience, being more convenient and being in the place that the customer wants you to be. So I actually think if I think really far into the future, you might use all these different mediums to help you build the profile about you, but retail would be more about subscriptions, if that's the right term, or here are the brands that I'm interested in, and you know that I'm going to need a new pair of jeans once every 6 weeks, or that's the habit I'm in, and I'll just get a pair of jeans. And they should know me so well that they fit well. So maybe fitness tracking is going to say, Adam's been on holiday recently, he's put a few pounds on, this time send him a size bigger. But I think the speculative future of retail is subscription and knowing the customer inside and out. But obviously there are some things that get in the way of that, things like GDPR and privacy and all of those things. So for that to become reality, we would have to sacrifice or be willing to sacrifice some of our privacy. And as an individual, I do it. For better results on search results on Google, I give them more of my data, and I'm happy to do that because I'm inherently lazy.
That's fascinating. It sounds like an extremely relaxing way to shop as well. Dirk, and your kind of image of the future then, 10 years' time, what do you see?
Yeah, so short term, which is more like 3 to 5 years' time, I hope that, and I think that the fundamentals will become right, which is a better in-store experience, no waiting line in the checkout. You actually don't even need a self-service checkout. You can just pick the products that you want to. You get best support from the store associate in the store, and then you can walk out, right? So there's basically no waiting anymore in the co. And online and offline, like we already discussed, this unified shopping experience. It's all about you. You're in the center of it, and everything else is tied around you, will actually come to life, which is a promise that brands and retailers make since 15 years, but from a technology perspective, we are now getting there. When we look 10 years ahead and getting a little bit more speculative, hyper-personalization to the maximum, to the extreme, as already pointed out, I think will come in place, but of course it needs to come hand in hand with privacy, with your personal preferences. So it should not be spooky, it actually should be helpful for you, that you see and get all of the things that you need. And on the other end, I really believe that with AI evolving, with some guidance into the right direction, and the devices becoming smaller and smaller and faster over the next 6 to 8 years, we will see probably within 7 to 8 years AR devices that we will not call AR devices anymore, that look like a nice set of glasses or contact lenses, and will actually make for all of us a lot of things different, but hopefully also easier on the retail path.
Brilliant. Well, that's an excellent note to end on. Thank you so much to our panelists. We could all give our panelists a warm round of applause. And thank you for joining us and listening into the panel today.